What's going on? Welcome back. Idaho Sports Talk on this terrific Friday. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We're in our rowpaint.com studio, and let's head on to it. Bronco Nation News Report. We do it every Friday at this time. Welcoming BJ Rains on the Fat Guys Fresh Deli Hotline. BJ, what's going on today? How are you? Safe travels, I hope.
Yeah, I'm doing great, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Sounding really good. BJ, what's next? I mean, we know the loss happened last night. We've been talking about it, but, San Jose State comes into the building tomorrow. They've never won here. I mean, not just necessarily that, but for this program kind of moving forward over the next couple of weeks to keep itself in this position. What's next, man?
Well, they just got to, continue to build off what they did to put themselves in this position. I mean, Leon Rice said it today. If you'd have told them, before the season or even a month ago that you would be in this position, 8-1 in first place in the conference going into the back half of conference play, you would have taken it in a heartbeat. So you just got to take care of business. You can't stub your toe against any of these bad teams. You got to beat San Jose. You have to, UNLV at home. I know they're improved, but you got to win that one. You got to win at Air Force, and then you got to hold serve, with some of these home games. So I think 7-2 in the last 9 games. That'd be 5-1 at home, 2-1 on the road in the last 3. If you can go 7-2, I think you're a lock for the tournament before you even go down to Vegas. So I think they just got to get, Mladen Armouche going. He's got, 16 fouls and 11 points in the last 4 games. That's not going to get it done. Acott, they just need to get a little more consistency from some of these guys. And, overall, I still think they're in a pretty good spot. I think fans and everybody's saying, oh, here we go, the February slide, it started. But it was one game, and you were underdogs, and you were not supposed to win. So it was in a tough environment, and you put it behind you. You win big tomorrow against San Jose State, and you try to start a new winning streak next week.
What has Leon been saying about this Armouche slump? Because I think we can call it that. Hopefully it's just a slump. A slump means you're going to get out of it, right? It doesn't mean that's just how you're going to play moving forward, BJ. How important is that to get the big fella playing like the big fella again?
Yeah, I mean, he goes some games where he has 22 points and 19 rebounds against Utah State. He goes 10 of 16 from the field and just has a dominant game. And then he scores 11 total points in the next 4 games. And the last 3 games, Wyoming, Fresno, Wyoming, he hasn't played more than 20 minutes in a game. So they got to keep him on the field or the court, on the floor. They got to keep him out of foul trouble. To have 4-5-4 in the last 3 games for fouls, that's just not going to cut it. And Leon basically says that, he knows he's a quality player. He knows that he can do it. They just have to do a better job as a coaching staff to put him in position and as, teammates to put him in position. And that's, kind of saying it nicely. I mean, some of the layups and short shots that he misses at the rim are just really frustrating when he gets all this work to get a foot away from the basket and then he just has trouble finishing sometimes. So I think that's going to be a big key for them moving forward. Again, you look at some of his rebound totals in some of these games, 19, 13, 12, 15, and then recently, 2 rebounds and no points at Fresno 2 games ago. I mean, they just got to find a way to get him more consistent. He does take at times, guys, some silly fouls where he'll commit a foul, way out beyond the 3-point line, or after a guy last night already had the rebound. He just, so he's got to do a better job of staying out of foul trouble and staying on the court. And hopefully that increased minutes will mean increased production.
Talking Boise State basketball with BJ Rains, Bronco Nation News. We do it every Friday right here on Idaho Sports Talk. BJ, let's talk about this schedule. I did a hit with you this morning on your Bronco Nation News show. We talked about the next 6 games. We talked about the next 9 games. Boise State, it's very home friendly. They got a lot of chance to do some really solid things. The second half starts tomorrow, and it's a very home friendly game. What do you expect, and what do you want to see out of these next 9 games?
Yeah, 6 of the 9 at home. I mean, Leon Rice said it, and it's true. I mean, no one has gone through the gauntlet that he called it, that they have in this league. I mean, forget about how quick the games were with the 5 games in 10 days and all that. I mean, they're the only team in the league that's already played at Fresno, at Nevada, at New Mexico, at San Diego State, at Utah State. I mean, they've already played in the hardest venues in the league. And so their 3 remaining road games are Air Force, UNLV, and Colorado State. And so they have a very, very favorable schedule from that standpoint moving forward. And we've talked about it. I mean, they win 82% of their home games or whatever under Leon Rice, 8 out of 10. And so they've got, 6 left. And like I said, I think 5-1 is the number. You'd love to go 6-0, but if you can go 5-1 in these 6 home games, and again, you got San Jose State, and then you got the Friday, Sunday, next weekend, UNLV, Colorado State. and then you still get Utah State, San Diego State at home, as well as Nevada on senior night. So I think there's a lot of opportunities here, and the schedule sets up nicely. They play pretty well at home. They're going to have a big crowd tomorrow, probably going to have big home crowds, maybe aside from the Colorado State game for almost every game the rest of the season with the quality of team they're playing. So no, I think it's a good opportunity for them. They're not going to have to do much traveling. Don't have another road game now for 2 weeks till February 16th. And then, just kind of try to, again, you put yourself in a good position. You're in the tournament as of right now, but now you got to, take advantage of the schedule, take advantage of the home games, and take care of business. And if you can do that, I think they're in a pretty good position here still to go dancing for the first time since 2015.
This basketball team has done some really nice things so far this year, BJ. You travel with them, you're home, you see them all the time, you're with them every day. Where do you want to see this basketball team get better in February?
Well, I think that the consistency. I think the consistency in the scoring. The offense is what it is, but they had just too many droughts where they go 4, 5, 6 minutes without scoring. They had another one last night where they went 5+ minutes without scoring a point. And luckily for their defense, it's keeping them in games, but they're not going to win a lot of games if they continue to have 4+ minute droughts on offense. They had like 3 of those in the San Diego State game or something like that. So they've just got to find a way to score the ball a little more consistently. The depth and all that, it is what it is. They're only going to play their 7 guys. You may see a little bit of Pavle Kuzmanovic, a little bit of Lucas Milner, but for the most part, the 7 guys is what it is. And so I think that this is your group, and you just hope to squeeze every little ounce of potential out of them. But I would say that I'd like to see a little more offense if possible. The defense has been great, but it just can't do it all. 6 of 24 from three-point range last night, 25%. Only shot 39% for the game. So you'd like to see the offense get a little better. And then, as I said, you'd like to get Armouche a little more consistent. Acott, even Shaver didn't do much till the late in the game. So you just like to get a little more offensive production from some of your key players. And one thing I've liked seeing is Max Rice. Max Rice, that's 3-4 games in a row now where he's hit 3-pointers and multiple 3-pointers now in back-to-back games. He's playing with a little more confidence. So I think that's a strong sign moving forward if Max Rice is back to the guy that's a serious threat from the outside.
BJ, you had Boise State Athletic Director Jeremiah Dickey on Bronco Nation News today. What were some of the highlights? What stood out to you the most with your interview with the AD today?
Yeah, we know a lot of criticism that they're getting about the lack of concession stands and the student section roping off every other row. And his exact quote about the every other row in the student section being blocked off was, quote, "It's something the health advisors requested." So he said, hey, he's not a doctor. He's an athletic director. They're talking to medical professionals and doing what they can. I know the mask compliance hasn't been great inside Extra Mile Arena. So instead of jam-packing all the students as close as they can together down by the court, they felt at the request of the health advisors, maybe spread out the students a little bit in that end might help. And so I know a lot of students don't like that. If you saw today, they did announce that they're going to spread the students out. They'll also be in the upper level on the opposite end of the court than where the student section usually is. That's going to now be an overflow section as they anticipate some larger student crowds for the remaining home games. And they did announce just a little while ago, guys, that they are going to have limited concession stands will be sold in a outdoor tent. Remember, there's a women's game tomorrow at noon, and then the men's game against San Jose State is at 4. But starting at 11 a.m. tomorrow, there'll be an outdoor tent where you can purchase limited food and drinks, and alcohol will be available for purchase. But the kicker is you cannot bring it back inside. So you can go outside and purchase some concessions in this heated tent, apparently, but you do have to partake outside. But he just said they're doing what they can. COVID's not great for everybody. He understands that. He wants a full stadium. He wants to have full concessions, but they're controlling what they can control. And I did ask him about the football scheduling as well, Prater. He did not get specific on Florida State, but he did hint that playing an in-state school might make some sense for them in the future. So we'll see in terms of the Idaho game maybe coming back on the schedule. So there was some nice little nuggets there, and that interview is available if you go back and just go to the social media channels of Bronco Nation News to check it out.
I was stalking you on that interview, and I did hear that, and I wrote down a little note: Idaho Vandals, ? Jeremiah Dickey. So let's hope that happens, at least a one-time game somewhere down the road. All right, let's switch over. Speaking of football here, Brian Harsin somehow got his name finagled into the news last night, today. He's the big hot topic in the South right now, fighting for his job, according to some reports. I don't know. You've had a lot of interaction with Brian Harsin. Just tell me what you think from your personal thoughts about Brian Harsin and how he deals with people, how he deals with administrators, players, coaches, media.
Yeah, I mean, you talked to a lot of former players, and some former players loved Brian Harsin, and some former players couldn't stand Brian Harsin. There really wasn't much in the middle in terms of former players I talked to. They either loved him or hated him. And so I think if you were Brian Harsin's guy and you, were his kind of mentality and had the same personality as him, there were guys that loved playing for him and thought he was a great coach. But if your personality didn't mesh with him, then you weren't a big fan. And I think it's probably a big culture shock with his kind of no nonsense and his approach going down there to Auburn. I think that there were probably a lot of players that, frankly, we're not ready for the change maybe from Gus to him in terms of some of the things that and the ways that Brian Harsin does things. And yeah, he was difficult to work with for the media. He was a very tough to get to know and really to have any kind of personal relationship with, and wasn't the greatest to work with. So I don't know how that plays into all this, and who knows if this is just the boosters trying to concoct something to get out of the $18 million or just to get him out of there. Who knows? It doesn't really surprise me. You've seen 20 plus players transfer. You've had 4 or 5 coaches that have moved on. It does seem like there's been a lot of turnover there in 1 year. And so we'll see. And there's some other rumors, obviously, about off the field stuff potentially. So hopefully none of that's true. And you just we'll wait and see at this point. But when there's articles saying that he may not have a job by the end of the weekend, it's certainly fascinating stuff to see what happens here.
It feels like the boosters are just trying to run him out. Doesn't that to you? And I'm speculating, but a lot of this story, BJ, I'm just, maybe I'm not, I don't want to say I'm not buying it, but dude, you get what you pay for. They paid for Brian Harsin. That's who he is, man. Yeah. I mean, You're not going to let him come there and establish the program the way he wants to establish it. Like, to me, I don't know, man. There's a lot with this thing that I'm paying attention to. You?
Well, you paid for more than 7 and 6, right? I mean, you did pay for that too, and whatever it was. And again, it was 1 season, and but I mean, you did have some former players come out and speak up for him in his defense and say that if you don't want to take his style and compete and that kind of thing, then we didn't want you here anyway. So he's got some players sticking up for him, and I saw some coaches as well. Jeff Schmedding came out with a tweet supporting him. So we'll see what happens. And I would probably tend to agree with you. I mean, even in the SEC, it's so hard to win down there. Whatever. I mean, you don't see a coach get fired like this after 1 year. So I would be, there's something going on, and who knows if it just wasn't the right fit from the start. I think all of us thought it was kind of an odd fit from the start, and we'll see if he can turn it around there. But certainly I was looking at their schedule for next year, and they got Penn State again. At least that's at home. And and you look at their conference schedule. I mean, it's a lot different than the Mountain West, and he's finding that out. He's finding that out pretty quick.
That's not getting easier. BJ, appreciate the coverage. Bronco Nation News and KTIK joining forces, and I guess I'll catch you at Extra Mile tomorrow, huh?
Yeah, looking forward to having you there, press row, man. Appreciate it, guys.
See you later. BJ Rains every Friday for the Bronco Nation News Report. Prater, we were talking about it earlier today. Like, the coaches that have stuck around at Auburn are, most cases, the coaches that Brian Harsin brought with him. They know how he works. They know how to work with him. They know who he is. They're ready, willing, and able to accept the fact that, hey, it is what it is working for this guy. Maybe, we had Trey Wallace on. He kept referencing Derek Mason. That's not how Derek Mason operates. Hey, he's been in this league and he knows how it works, but it's kind of like, well, hey, Brian Harsin's the head coach. If Derek Mason doesn't like it, okay, great. Have fun in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Yeah.
You were going somewhere with that. Here's before we get to a break, Auburn would be smart to keep Brian Harsin for at least the 4 non-conference games. I know BJ just referenced Penn State. That's at home. Brian Harsin plays all 4 of his non-con games next year at home, and JP is going to love this schedule. Mercer, Western Kentucky, and San Jose State.
Wow.
Okay. So if you beat Penn State, you're 4-0. That means you go 3-5 in the SEC. That means you're 7-5 on the year.
Well, he started 5-1,
6-2.
6-2.
He was 6-2 and finished 6-7.
Yep, lost his last 5.
Yeah, he did. All right, good stuff. Your thoughts again. We always want you to share them with us on the Cloverdale Plumbing text line 208-424-9300. In about an hour, Open Phone Friday. You guys kicked so much butt with that segment last week, and we think we got better topics this week. So, hey, we want to hear from you today. Calling in this program on Open Phone Friday. That in about an hour. But next, the Olympics. Opening ceremonies tonight, Winter Olympics, Beijing. Me and Prater, we're putting together an Olympic party. We're going to invite you over to our house, but we have to draft the events in the Olympics that we're going to watch. JP, you can be the ultimate judge. Which party are you going to rather attend? Praetors or ball games?
By the way, I'm filing a protest for this. JP in charge of any kind of party. I'm not sure.
So maybe I have a chance here. JP, what do you say to that?
I'm in charge of the party. I thought I was just being invited, and I was deciding where to go.
Yeah, which party you'd rather go to?
So what sort of
That's what he's
snacks
talking
and
about.
drinks and
we're not getting into snacks and drinks, I don't think. This is just what events we're watching. We're going to have some fun and have a little draft segment. Also, rock jocks and pop culture coming up. And today we are giving away $50 to one of our favorite places, Costa Vida. That'll be this hour. We got some good questions for you. And don't forget, we will be airing Super Bowl 56 on this program next weekend on this station, Super Bowl 56, your exclusive home in the Treasure Valley. JP, let's get a draft day segment going next on Prater.